Alrighty, Red Riders, welcome to Volume 1 of the Red Corner Trade Deadline Strategy Series. It's 4 to 5 weeks away from the July 31st deadline. So we got the Red Corner boys together here, and we're going to be the front office here. We're going to be the front office, so ignore everything going on over there on Pattison. So, Slim Bones, we got plenty of time here. Let me just lay the foundation here. So, this isn't going to be just a throw something at the wall and see what sticks discussion. We're going to get deep into the, front office, war room, whatever you want to call it, conversations. This first volume, what we're going to do, we're going to leave all the rumors to the end of the episode. The first one, we're just going to talk about what position groups do we want to improve on. So as we go into these next couple of weeks, Slim, kick it off for us here. Where are you focusing on?
So right now, as I looking into my assets matrix, seeing what we got, seeing what we don't have, seeing what we really, really, really need, and it's not a single position, right? It's a bat, and it's a right-handed bat, and I keep coming back to two things that are standing out to me. Is our right-handing slugging percentage against left-handed hitters is one of the lowest in the leagues, and second, we have below average barrel to the ball rate. So when we're talking about right-handed bats, okay, we know we have Turner in the leadoff spot, but then after that, it's Castellanos, it's Sosa, and then it's guys like Rojas.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we absolutely have to add a right-handed bat is my top priority.
Okay, so I'm looking here at my list. I have right-handed bat written down as well, so we're in agreement there. So Bones, what do you got going on for us?
Right-handed bat is, it's not first on my list,
Right?
but it's on my list of one of the spots to do, and obviously the position we think of is left field with Kepler.
Right.
Someone to platoon there, or even take his job if so. That's my thing. A right-handed bat in left field.
Yeah, I mean, as the saying goes, men lie, numbers don't. So let's just take a quick look at that. Slim, I love those barrel numbers that you brought to the table. I had a couple of those lined up, so thank you for that. Left field, we are 22nd in the MLB in OPS. Center field, we are 21st in the MLB in OPS. And these don't tell the full story, right? Just an offensive statistic. But we know the offense is really where we need to improve right now, right? So that in mind, I have right field. Nick Castellanos, we've had a million conversations about him on this podcast. Castellanos is 11th in the MLB in OPS as far as right fielders go, right? We know his defensive struggles. We know the contract might have been not a great value. But my concern about going into the trade deadline is who's going to take Castellanos, right? That's not a name you don't really hear a lot about until most recently, which we're going to touch on. So from a trade value standpoint, do you guys think that there's even a deal to be made for him? Because we're talking about right-handed bats here.
No, I don't think Castellanos has much, if any, trade value. In fact, if he's going to get dealt, like you said, it opens up. We're losing a right-handed bat right off the top,
Exactly.
which is a need we need. And don't get me wrong, Slim is trying to get Castellanos out of here. But with that being said, we have to note that for sure.
Bingo.
He's 11th in OPS, right? He's not the worst of the worst. The Phillies and Adam and Bones have sat here and basically said they don't care about defense. So Castellanos is on brand for what the Phillies have going on. Secondly, what I'm most concerned with is not really right field. It's just getting a right-handed bat, period. Because Castellanos, even though he has more, he has a decent amount of doubles this year. His average is still, I think, 279 when I checked today. So it's been about a month since we had our debate, Bones, and he's still right there for you. So kudos there. But with that being said, he's tied with homers with Kepler. They both got 10 on the nose. We need more home runs here. So I don't care what position a guy plays, if he plays a position at all. I hate to throw Schwarber out in left field, but the fact is our pitching is so good. They're going to be buying us a lot of leeway, and that leeway probably, honestly, shortens up. That leeway is probably that inch is giving to our defense, if that makes sense, right? And then our bats can just hopefully they come alive. Hopefully this new guy hits a home run, or hopefully Schwarber's hitting homers, or Harper's feeling better for a month. Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with it at this point. I'm with you because we're going to sacrifice the defense. I'm in on sacrificing, and so let's go all in on the offense. Let's bring somebody here with some pop.
Okay, so that in mind, so Bones, I'm looking at you here. So what I'm hearing from our conversation is, yes, Castellanos has his warts, right? But the offensive production has been closer to the top third of the league, especially in doubles, top of the league. Now, as far as left field and center field, that's where we're trying to get a little bit more production. So, are you out on Marsh and Kepler from a playoff roster standpoint? Where are we at on those two names? I'll start with you on that, Bones.
Oh man.
So, I'm in on Marsh. Like they
Okay.
gotta like the Rojas experiment is done and over with.
Right.
Lefties, righties, Marsh should be the guy. He's been hitting the ball very well since the beginning of May, even from June 1st on. May 1st on, he was doing it. June 1st on, he's been doing it. Over, I think it's like 280 is the number that he's batting over. So,
Might even be better than that, honestly.
yeah, I'm pretty sure I was just being safe.
Yeah.
But the left field, like, that's definitely a concern with lefties. So that's where the right-handed back comes in with platoon him with Kepler. But if they somehow can get rid of Kepler to bring in some, that's fine with me. I really don't care. Like he dug that on himself if he's not here by after the deadline. So
right, I guess because the low hanging fruit here is if you get a right handed bat, there's basically three places you can plug them in. Right, there's third base, there's second base, and then there's left field. Because if we're thinking that the center field market's pretty dry, which it is, and if we're thinking that we're going to go Marsh with a platoon occasionally with Rojas in center, or maybe focus more on Marsh, what you're saying, I think the easiest thing to do is get a right-handed bat and plug him into left field. Now, what does that do to Kemp? So where are you at on this whole iteration, Slim?
So I think you're right. I think as the front office, we had to lay out what positions we're comfortable potentially moving guys around in.
Right.
But then the second half of that equation is who are the guys we're moving out? If there's going to be someone, a Bohm, a Stott, or is it going to be a Miller, Crawford, Payne, or Abel type, right? So, I don't think any of these guys are besides, I think I wouldn't be shocked if we see movement there. Obviously, Stott and Bohm are fairly cheap, so they should be easy to move. That might make them attractive to include with a guy like Castellanos.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, we'll eat the contract and we'll give you a cheap. We'll give you Castellanos, Stott, and we'll give you Aiden Miller for maybe a certain second baseman or something along those lines. I think the next equation is figure out who's comfortable moving positions, and then the second part is who are we comfortable moving, or
100%. It's a tough one, and you went ahead and you mentioned the minor leaguers, which is 100% a great point because they have to be factored in. Is there a name that maybe will come up, a la Crawford? B, are they trade pieces, right? And we're going to talk a lot about that. But I just think the most difficult position that we're in here, as since we have our front office caps on, they have to make a decision. Dombrowski has to make a decision on, okay, who's in, who's out. At this point, baseball is a large sample size game, right? He has a large sample size. So I'm going to, on a lot of these guys. So I'm going to actually go counter. I'm out on Marsh. I'm done with Marsh. I think Marsh he's got to move on. I'm not going to get too ahead of myself here because we're going to talk about people that we're going to be willing to trade, but he's one of mine. So I think for what we got to do, whoever we're going to get this right-handed bat from, because you hit it on, Slim, we need more slug from the right-handed side. Kemp came up. He's been great, but he's not going to be providing that. We see that.
When you look at the locker room, though, who are guys you think can be on this team that can bring a championship culture and a championship here and a championship attitude, that's where it's going to be hard to get rid of Marsh. And if we take a full survey of who we have, all right, maybe we bring a Crawford up. We can have Marsh and Crawford and that other guy Kepler, who might not be fitting in with the culture. I know we paid him $10 million,
Yeah.
but maybe there's something there compared to something being there with Marsh, because it seems like Marsh and Crawford are fitting in better than Kepler is at this point. When you say you're out on Marsh, you know what I'm
So
saying?
I do know what you're saying. The reason I'm saying I'm out on Marsh is because I believe like his recent surge may have bought us a little bit of trade value with him. So I'm looking at that and my eyes are lighting up, and
Yeah.
I'm thinking, all right, I don't see how he plugs in to the future for us anymore. And look, he's been playing great. I get that. And if he continues to do that, no one will be happier. But I think we're in a situation where we can maybe package him and get someone in there that has a little bit more slug, a little bit more consistency, and doesn't go into those 0 for 29s that he did earlier in the year. But okay, so let me just kind of recap so we have a little bit of a, structure here. So we're in agreement that our primary focuses, and Slim, I like the way you put this, because this isn't a black and white game we're playing here, right? We're gonna have to play a little bit of optionality with some of these positions. So we want a right-handed bat with a little bit more slug, and it's safe to say that we want a consistent everyday outfielder.
Yeah.
Is that safe? Let's
For
have the
sure.
conversation. Let's have the
For
conversation.
sure.
I mean, it's a nice wish list. I don't think we're going to get one. I think we're going to have some kind of platoon, right? I don't know. I don't know what the outfielder looks like. I think it's going to be somewhere. I don't know. Um, I'm
We'll get into names. So I'm saying this is a wish list conversation. So in the future we'll talk more names. But as far as what do you think this team Bones? What do you think?
I hope
Yeah.
so.
I think you definitely have to have an everyday outfit. Like you have to get an everyday outfielder because you can't go into the playoffs, going deep into the playoffs with uncertain in center field and left field. I think
That's
Marsh is starting to play
right.
to that potential, but if you're talking like he could be a piece to move, which is possible,
Yep.
you at least got to have one guy that's able to be consistent. Another guy besides Castellanos, who's steady Eddie out there in right field, needs somebody else to complement him and then platoon either center field or left field, whatever one uh, that doesn't get filled.
For sure. And again, Slim, this might be a little bit wishful thinking, but we're kind of just laying our strategy out here. So
Well,
I
I
hear
think I,
you.
I think what happens when you start thinking like that, if you want an everyday player, you're going to have to. I think it's going to cost you. That's all. We're going to, and maybe that should get us excited. Hopefully, because Dombrowski, we're dying for a splash.
Right.
And that's the only thing. I don't think any of these moves are ever, like you said, black and white, easy to do. Oh, here's your right-handed right fielder or left fielder. Go and have fun. We'll take one of your prospects.
Right.
It's not going to be like this. The next month or so as we approach the trade deadline, we're gonna. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know the names yet. We've done a little bit of research, but we'll see. Yeah, maybe we get our throw our hats in for a bigger name.
Okay. So we talked about like what our strategy is, the main position areas, and we talked about the kind of the areas we don't think we're going to be moving, right? So we know that we're not going to be going after much starting pitching. We know that we're not going to be going after a shortstop or, Bryce Harper replacement, right? But what we also know is that our bullpen, going back to our numbers here, the Phillies have a huge gap in performance as far as bullpen and starting pitching goes, right? Our starting pitching is second in the entire big leagues in ERA. Our bullpen's like 24th or 25th. So huge gap there. That in mind, we need some bullpen help. So Bones, looking at you here, do you have where's your strategy on the bullpen?
So this is a big. We should go back to the genie list that we did earlier in the year because this one, it could use it. I mean, I got down here at least a right-handed reliever or two
Yes.
possible. But the number one on my list, and I talked about this before, is a left-handed reliever. It's definitely somebody we need the power,
Yep.
because Alvarado no good for the playoffs. Coming back from the PED suspension at the end of August, and then you got Tanner Banks, who's not overpowering you, and Strom has been uh, Mr. Inconsistent this year. Better of late, I guess.
Yeah.
But I think the left-handed strong reliever is somebody we need to replace for Alvarado because that was a big piece that we missed once he
Well
went
said.
down with that.
Slim, where are you out in the bullpen, brother?
I agree 100%. I think, and this is, we got to be all in this year. So, following the same theme of getting a higher echelon everyday outfielder, if we're going to make that run, same thing here. We're going to have to spend to get a, we can't get a wild card reliever. We can't, because it might be something we only have for a year. We're only going to have, we only have half a season left. And then we know what's coming at the end of this all season. Big decisions on players like Schwarber and Suarez.
Big time.
So, and we had to get the reliever because we had the second worst ER. Like you said, there's a big discrepancy between our starting pitching and relief pitching. Our team ERA is 5.81, second worst in baseball. All right, so something has to give. These guys, especially as we get later in the year, especially as the playoffs come, maybe they do go Kurt Schilling, Randy Johnson, and they go 7 innings every single time and are cannons for us, but it's a lot to ask for. And then secondly, our team whip is bottom third in the whole MLB. So none of that really makes sense when we had these extraordinary starters. Yeah. So we had to. It's going to be interesting to see how we allocate our talent on the 40-man already roster that we have, and with our prospects, because we have to. They cannot sit on their hands and not get a right-handed bat or another reliever. It would be malpractice, right? He would be, especially coming off. Bone said it last week. The Kepler signing, where Dombrowski should definitely be feeling a little bit of heat. And for real, Castellanos is one of his boys. So these outfielders are kind of low key Dom's bros.
So you hit it, Slim, right? So in a lot of ways, it's a tough situation, right? Because at the deadline, we are basically trying to build a team for the playoffs, right? In a lot of ways, if you're buying, but also you got to get to the playoffs, right? So I think a lot of people would say right now, this team, as far as the pitching staff, is built for the playoffs, right? Because we can slot one or two of our starters into the bullpen. And oh, by the way, we have Alvarado coming back in August, too, that can kind of help us get to the postseason. We'll talk more about that in the future, how much stock we put into that. But all that being said, let's have a little bit of fun with this right now, because this is very critical for our trade deadline strategy. Pitching in the playoffs. Right now, Bones, who would you have our big three as? Starters.
Wheeler, obviously the ace.
Yep.
One of the top 3 best pitchers in baseball right now. And then
Sanchez
and Suarez. Like, I was just thinking about who I was going to put at 2 or 3.
Okay.
And obviously, it doesn't really matter. You know what I mean? The way they're pitching, they can go either or. I think that it's going to be tough to see who's going to be that 4 guy. But 3, like, Phillies are in a way better spot than other teams when it comes to the starting pitching for the playoffs, because you always get to that game 4 and they're like, the old bullpen game in the playoffs. Phillies ain't going to have that. They're going to have the 4th guy. Just got to figure out who it is.
And the reason I asked that, and Slim, I'm coming right back to you because I'm actually going to give you some flowers right now. The reason that I ask that is because the closer that we get to the trade deadline, right, and the more certain of who those starters are, that's so important. That's so important because then that's how you pick on who you're going to willing to give up prospects for, right? What arm are they going to be? What are they, middle? Are they late? And I've been scratching my head all year when Slim has said he thinks Andrew Painter is probably going to be a relief pitcher in the postseason. And as we get closer to trade deadline, I think he's probably right. I don't know how else you use him. Are we going to start this guy in like late August and then expect him to be a starter in the playoffs? So like the further we get away from that, the closer we get to that, the more I think he seems correct. Slim, floor is yours.
Yeah, there's no doubt on that, and I didn't want to bring because that I'm hoping maybe might help us with what we decide to do when it comes to acquiring relief pitchers. But here's the second wonky situation. If Luzardo only really has, let's say he's basically the same Luzardo he was the first half, which is pretty damn good.
Pretty damn good.
Maybe 2 like wonky outings. And then let's say Nola comes back. All right.
Yep.
I don't know what's going on with Nola. It seems like he's about to be on his way back, hopefully soon, but who knows? But if he comes back and he only has a few starts and he's whatever, and Luzardo's pretty good, then you got that. That's going to be the conversation for the 4th starter, right? And I think a quick assessment, you probably get the nod to Nola's because he's the veteran. He's been here for years. But if he doesn't come back and get some games under his belt, it's going to be hard to, especially if Luzardo's been solid. And I don't know what that looks like with Nola not being as, I don't know. But something seems weird there too at Nola, right? Like I should have done. So if he comes back this year, that's going to be another wonky situation. Not wonky. I guess we're
I think wonky's the way. I think wonky's fair because I think the Nola situation and Bones, kick it right over to you. I think that has to be considered into the trade deadline strategy, right?
Yeah, and I'm glad you said if, Chris, because I don't know if he is going to come back. To be honest with you,
right?
It's just weird. Like it was one thing, and then it was another thing, and now it's a fractured rib. Like, are they just like holding him off because something else is wrong, or is just this the way it's playing out? Like because we're talking about a guy who's Mr. Consistent for
Right.
first 10 years in this league, except for the 1 year where he made less than 30 starts. But other than that, I mean, he was Mr. Durable, and that's why he got the contract he got. And I don't see if he does come back and he's struggling, like I can't even see him like pitching in the bullpen because we all know his situation when men get on base, he's a totally different pitcher. And if he's coming in like in the middle of an inning, he don't have the stuff to get out of that. You know what I mean? He don't have that overpowering stuff.
He doesn't have the overpowering stuff, and the other thing is he's putting himself in Slimma. You just mentioned this. He's putting himself in a very short window. Let's say he does come back, right? Whenever that would be, August, September. He has a very short window for an audition, right? Because if he comes back at some point and he doesn't look even remotely close to who he is, there's no way the Phillies can put him out there in the playoffs as a sign of respect. We don't have time for that stuff anymore, right?
Yeah.
So if he comes back, he's lights out. Then it's like, okay, Luzardo, Nola has, he's done this before. He's been here. You're going to go in the bullpen. Plus, we need a left-handed. That looks better with the whole lefty split up too. So that would be perfect. The Nola injury was not part of the plan this year. It was not part of the plan. So.
And the other factor is, like you said, you don't want to be dealing with any of that stuff, and that stuff is, you're trying to mesh in personalities and cultures all over again. May become August, and here's the other factor is not just playing games because we're talking like we're 11 games in first place.
Right.
The reps Luzardo and these guys are going to be getting are going to be high leverage. We got to win these games, especially because these dudes. If it's a good team, they might only score 2 runs. If that, we'll be lucky we get 3 runs. So, and then
right,
you won't be able to do Luzardo dirty if he continues to perform.
And now we're getting the best run support for our pitchers.
Right, we're not getting the best run support, and you're right. Like when you're in a tight race for either the division or whatever top of the league, those are high leverage playoff type appearances start in like mid-September, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you're getting a lot extra stress on that arm So that's a great call out by you, Slim. All right, so we've established our strategy as far as needs go, boys. We want that right-handed bat. We would love a little bit more consistency for the outfield, and we want a more shored-up bullpen, primarily a left-handed arm, right? So that's our strategy. Let's talk about the people that are untouchable and or we just don't think we're going to be moving for whatever reason. Let me start with you here, Bones.
So are we talking?
You don't got to state the obvious, guys. We don't talk
No,
about
no,
Harper.
no.
Yeah.
Like whole baseball, or like their whole like major league team, or just the minors.
I got to go way of phrasing this question. Who do you think we're going to get calls on that we're going to hang up the calls once the names get said?
Oh, okay.
Prospects and all that
Yeah,
kind of
yeah,
stuff.
yeah. Well, obviously Andrew Painter,
Mm-hmm.
right?
And what do you think? Most importantly, that's all I care about. What you think?
To me, it would be Painter, Miller, and Tate.
Because you think he's
that would be the three guys, untouchable, and Crawford. As long as the piece coming back is controllable.
That's sound strategy.
Other than that, like he be on the untouchable list.
Okay.
If they ain't, if it's a rental player, Crawford stays to me.
All right. So I'll touch on a couple of your guys, but I want to hear what Slim has to say first.
I would like to have to be, have the emotional intelligence of Chip Kelly and not care and be able to wheel and deal whoever I want whenever I want it. But that can't be done. But to Bones, I think you're probably being a little bit too conservative, probably overvaluing our pieces a little bit too much. We're going to have to probably move maybe even 2 of the 4 or 5 of the guys you named. If we're talking Miller, Tate, Crawford, the only one out of those guys I definitely don't move is Painter. And then it's Miller, but Miller's a little bit below him. And even at this point, like I like the way you phrase it, Diva, when you said when they call us, who do we hang up on?
Yeah.
But then there's the idea of if we're being the aggressors, if we call you with someone, here's Andrew Painter, here's Aiden Miller. And now it looks a little bit different. That maybe it doesn't. That those are the kind of phone calls you have when you get those perennial all-star type guys, though.
100%. And so
they're not on my no trade list. None of the prospects are really on my can't trade list.
Except Miller and Painter?
Painter, and then not really Miller. No, I think Miller's has to be included on the list for sure. When it comes to the guys already on the roster, it's just Harper, Turner, Schwarber. Some of these guys are going to be hard for us to trade. Yeah. I mean, I think that's it. That's it. Besides the starters, I'm keeping Suarez. If that's like the next big question,
you beat me to that. Yep.
Right. What's the next big question? I'm not including Suarez in any packages. And I think if we do, it will be misinformed, especially they think they're going to have. That's going to be leaning too much into their depth.
Yeah.
Their pitching depth, in my opinion.
Okay. So I want to go back to what Bones said about Eduardo. And forgive us about the pronunciations. I think it's Tai. So he is an 18-year-old catcher. He's nowhere near the big leagues.
He's not.
Obviously, that's a huge, it's like a 17-year or 16-year difference between our starting catcher. So I love the player, but I'm not as married to him as you are on that. I agree with basically everything else everyone said. I think that I'm a little bit more. I put this on our socials. I would offer that extension for Suarez right now. I said 2 years, 55, 60 million. Book it right now. Bam, sign. I think that's a good deal for the Phillies. Good deal for Suarez. Now Suarez might get more on the open market if he waits it out, but that's a big if, right? He also might God forbid, I don't want this to happen. He might get injured his next start, and then we're even more going to get a better deal, right? So that's where this game plays. So going back to the prospect, so the most likely prospect I think that we see get traded is Crawford. Um, the reason is because all the things that we've said, right? Slim hit it on the nail on the head is earlier. We might also kind of be protecting him from the big leagues right now, right? Because he's that hot prospect. Let's keep him that way. I thought that was a really nice point that you guys brought up a podcast ago or so. So I think that's a real possibility. And I think the reason that you don't do Miller is just because, I mean, that's a guy you could slot in multiple areas, right? He's got big athleticism. He's got power at a premium position in shortstop or third base. We haven't seen that in a while, right? Boom, look at Boom. Guy can't hit 15 homers a year. Imagine having a guy like Miller who might be like a 20-25 guy. So I think the as far as the untouchables is Painter and Miller. And honestly, I'm not married to anybody else. You hit the nail on the head with the controllables. I want a big time controllable for Crawford. I want a controllable for Taid and Escobar. Arun Escobar is the other guy that gets thrown out there a lot. That guy looks like a stud too.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, I wonder what the other GMs in the market has in mind, because we'll see if Crawford and those guys can catch us controllables. 1.2 Tai and going forward is I still do like the idea of re-signing Remuto this offseason. He's getting cheaper and cheaper by every sleep. I wake up and he's cheaper. So I love signing him for 2 years, and then maybe and I'm wrong. Let me know if you think I'm wrong on this. If we had Bermuda for another 2, I hate to say 3 years, but then would that have Tatis come in and have him be under his tutelage at some point, or are they never going to cross paths?
I don't think they would cross paths like in the majors together. Like, you can't let that kid, if he comes up, you can't let him ride the pine.
There's no like Bermuda wisdom.
No,
I need Bermuda to make a trip
no,
to the
he's got to
minors
come
and
up and play right away.
rub some wisdom on him, though.
Just
You know?
to,
Especially
that's what spring
catching.
training's for.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you.
Okay, so I have one last question here, and then we'll transition to the rumor section. So there's that particular guy in right field, right? So ignore him. Ignore him for now. What would be another name on the Phillies that we'll call it the wild card, that you think would be the next likely to get traded? It'd be a little bit surprising, but give me your wild card guy. Who do you got, Bones?
Bryson Stott.
That's a good one. That's a very good one.
Boom.
Yeah, I think those are the two best answers, right?
Yeah, it's just the ones we've been saying since last year. Third base, second base, third base. You know, I think it was vice versa. I think I was saying Stott in October, and you guys might have been saying Boom, but it's still the same too.
And apparently, like, it's something that, like, the Kepler came out and said about the, with the couple days off every once in a while against the lefties. Apparently, Stott has voiced the same opinion.
Yeah, that was in the past, though. I remember that. It wasn't as aggressive as Kepler said. That was he did say, and I remember that, but it was that's where context and delivery is all that. He was basically just saying, yeah, like it's harder. You got to get something to get used to. It wasn't like, oh, I was told I was going to be the starter. So, but you're right. Like it's a thing. Okay, so those are the two big names, right? So the Stott and Bohm. And Bohm, honestly, is funny because he's batting 280, and recently, there's been a lot to like in a lot of ways. But he's been the third base position as far as offensive production. It's one of the weakest that we have, and he's been kind of off the hook because of that average. Because the corner positions in the infield, you want a little bit more slug, right? And we're not getting any slug at all from him. So that's a big hole. He's like 21st or 22nd in the league in OPS at third from the third base position. So obviously we've had a little bit of Kemp, a little bit of Sosa over there, but a lot of that drag is from Bohm. So Bohm's not been good enough. Simple as that.
And the name you said right there seems like if we're deciding who is going to be though, Stott. I think Bohm's a better player than Stott, even though Stott's defense is so good. So then the question becomes, and I think we're seeing this, and we saw it recently the last couple games here, playing Sosa every day, right, at second base or something along those lines. So what maybe that's a conversation.
That's a great point. Yeah, no. So that I'm really glad you brought that up. We'll make sure we hit on that more. Spend some time on
There's
that.
so much,
There's
like
so
look,
much. There's so much. But
need
no,
whiteboards.
let's spend a lot more time on that on volume 2 of the trade deadline series. But let's end with we're gonna workshop this name, the Red Rumor, the Rumor Corner. We're gonna figure this out. But there was somewhat of a bombshell in Jim Bowden. He reported that Nick Castellanos is popping up on the rumor mill again as far as trades. So Slim, I got to start with you since this is your boy. Just go. Where are you taking this?
Hey, if there's two things right off the bat. Nobody wants Nick Castellanos. The second thing is, if we're going to be trading Nick Castellanos, that means it's almost like a salary dump situation where we're going to be taking some of his salary on a little bit. If that's the move we're looking to make, and you guys called it controllable contracts, I would love for us to make a big, 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 big splash, and I think maybe a big time package with a Castellanos, a Stott, and maybe one of these prospects we don't expect being included to bring back a name that is not on the list, that is a perennial all-star type. So think about a guy that, I mean, can I throw out two names right now, or is it too
Do it.
much?
Have some fun.
So the two names I'm looking at, and these are two of the sexiest names I think I can think of. Going back to last year, and I know he signed, but Brent Rooker again, he would fit in here perfectly. And going to Baltimore and just taking their best player with Henderson. If we have a huge, huge trade where we can bring those guys in, then I would include potentially a Miller type player.
Yeah, I mean, has there ever been a trade with a player that's been signed that quick though?
I don't know. I was
Pretty
thinking
unprecedented.
but that team it's a joke. They're having a terrible, terrible, terrible time, man. They're having a terrible
Yeah.
time, and he just fits in here so damn perfectly, man.
So it's a fun fantasy trade idea there. So Bones, where are you at on all this? And I want to dive more into that too, Slim. But guy, what do you think, Bones?
So that's not a bad idea actually, but another thing to look at is maybe like with the Castellanos. I don't think he's going to go anywhere this year, but it's maybe the off season with just the 1 year left after this,
Good point.
and like a
Good point.
package somewhere in there for somebody that's going to be more available come the off season, but not right now. I mean, I would do it now if it was possible for somebody like an upgrade. You know what I mean? But um, packaging Taiwan Walker to bring back, like with somebody to bring and eating his money to bring back somebody for a player that could be serviceable in the bullpen, maybe a mid reliever. It doesn't have to be like the
So packaging Casty with Taiwan.
yeah.
Okay, that would make a lot of people happy out there in Phillies land.
Yeah, to get like a right-handed bat that we need, and it doesn't have to be like this power reliever, like closer type, but somebody that's serviceable because the middle relief is pretty poopy too that we got. It's not
Right.
just, but that would be the one that I would do.
It's so hard because there's so many different. The thing about baseball and like the last 2 years, right? Austin Hayes and Estevez, right? Those were two names that we didn't really hear a lot about at all, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then we weren't really linked to it. We didn't hear too much about it, and then bam. So like, there's so many things that just pop up. That's why it's fun to play this, like, the name game. But the Castellanos, like, my knee jerk reaction is like, who does he fit with? Does he fit as a DH somewhere? Maybe. Does he fit as like a team that's like a fringe that's just looking to, maybe offload a worse contract? That's what I'm thinking. Like, who do we pair it with? Do we pair it with a guy where we're actually getting back the better player, but we're willing to pay a little bit more because we're going for a World Series run. Like, that's like the logic where my mind's going. But do you guys think that who do you think's making the calls? Are we making the calls or are they calling about him?
I
I don't
think the
think
Phillies will be making the calls on that. So like,
I
and
agree.
it would just be wouldn't it just be like Castellanos? They'd be said like if is there somebody outside of these guys on the roster
Right.
that you are interested in, and we could take money on
Yeah.
and go from there.
You agree with that, Slim?
I agree 100%. Unless you're a team that has a expensive reliever for some reason that you don't want, and it's a nice little easy trade there. But that's because if you're a team, you're looking to acquire Castellanos. You're like I said, you had that whole money aspect of it. So I don't know why a random team would want to spend that money. And really, we're coming in a situation now. It's going to be fun this offseason, regardless of what happens with the Philly season, to see what ownership does when it comes to spending and all. We saw the Morgan family buy in last year. Well, it looks like we're ready to spend some more. We're ready to spend. It might be now.
It might be now. And again, get Bones.
So I was thinking like ESPN has this top 50 list of trade candidates, right? There's going to be guys in there that aren't even on that list that are probably in the top 15 that will go right into the top 15 that will be traded
Good
before
call.
the deadline.
Good call. Yep. Yeah, it's true. And the other thing that you have to factor in is a contender that might have an injury coming up, right? Let's say that a team that's going for a playoff spot that has a right-handed back that goes down, that maybe a Castellanos could be a plug-in move for them, right? Like this stuff happens.
I think the two big things is that's why the sexy big fantasy players might be fantasy, but the NL is wide open. The Mets aren't. They're falling. They're regressing to what Bones has said they were pitching wise. But I thought the hitting was wise. Um, the Braves are now in fourth place behind Miami. Kudos to Miami. They've won I think 9 out of 10 or something along those lines.
That's your
Uh,
team, man.
the Padres are below 500. The Dodgers are still the Dodgers. And then you have the NL Central, which who knows what's going to happen with the NL Central. So it's wide open. That's the first thing that should give Dombrowski the green light to go make any kind of big move he wants. The second thing is if we got a big time player in here, the energy in the summer would be awesome. It would be high
Mike
flying.
Trout.
And
Mike
you got
Trout.
Mike Trout. It would be awesome. And you guys, people might not think momentum's a real thing, but hey, what about the time? And with these damn songs, we went on a run with that one song. Anytime these
What song? Oh, the I'm in
dance,
the
dance,
corner. Yeah,
dancing on my
yeah,
own, we saw the St. Louis Blues in hockey went on a run with the glorious song. We saw whoop there it is back with the old time Philly. What was that was that the Flyers or was that the '93 Phillies? Whoop there it is. It was before our time, but
yeah. I
I
remember
told
that one.
story. Yo, I'm telling you,
I know the
comments.
song. I know the song.
Whoop, there it is. Was that for the Flyers or was that I think it was for the Phillies in '93.
We'll fact check that.
But long story short,
Yeah.
it's weird how music and these odd things build momentum and camaraderie. So I think getting the right bat in here who can, and it has to be a bat that hits homers. We need balls sailing into the night down in South Philly.
Yes, we do. Okay, boys, this is going to be an exciting next couple of weeks. And just to remind the Red Riders and anyone who's listening or watching, this is volume 1 of our trade deadline strategy series. As the weeks go on and we get more information, we're going to jump back in here and we're going to build on this. And we're going to build on this as new things emerge. And obviously, we're always going to save some time to talk about some of the rumors. So if you're still here with us, hit that subscribe button. Thank you for watching. And I want to do some quick closing remarks. Anything you want to hit on before we close up volume 1 here, boys?
No, we still got to, like you said, this is the beginning of a long grind to see what becomes available, and hopefully, Dombrowski's ready to pounce.
This has got to be like Mob Wars, and the Phillies got to strike first,
Yes.
and they got to decapitate, and
I
then
love
start
it.
from
I
there.
love it.
They got to be the first ones to do it. They got to be on top of this, because like Chris said, there's a lot of teams in contention in this NL, and they're going to be all going for the same thing.
This is the biggest trade deadline since I'm going to say 15 years, right? This is the biggest one for the Phillies. The implications here, because we got to figure out if obviously we're going to go all in. We got to see how all in we're going. All right, guys, let's end on that note, and we will see you soon. And go Phils.